special city council meeting to order. Today is Monday, August the 11th, 2025, and it is 12:02 p.m. At this time, are there any public comments? No public comments. We'll go on to the non-consent agenda. Item C1, to discuss, consider the 2025 property tax rate calculation and proposed tax rate for the town of Pecos City. Heather Ramirez, Assistant City Manager.
Mayor and Council, let me see if I can do this from Okay, Mayor and Council, give me 1 second. Okay, you have this in front of you as well in a PowerPoint and a hard copy, and it'll be displayed up here for the audience. Before you, we're going to discuss our property tax rates. Okay, so what we did during our budget workshops is Deandra, I, and Charles, we worked our budget working both the highest of the tax rates and the lower of the tax rate scenarios to see how much of an impact we would have on our revenues and services. And then also with the Texas State Comptroller's Office, I don't know if that page is in front of you. Yes, it is. Okay, what you'll see in front of you as well is you have the last page of our tax calculation worksheet. This is the last page of about 10 pages that we work, and what you'll see is at the end we come up with 3 different rates. We come up with the no new revenue tax rate, the voter approval tax rate, and the de minimis tax rate, which you have up here. And of course, just as a reminder, the de minimis tax rate is a tax rate that cities with a population of less than 30,000 can adopt. So that'll be the lowest rate we can adopt without having to trigger an election. Okay, so we are proposing in our budget this year a tax rate of 0.44259. This is going to be a 3-cent difference from last year's tax rate, which is an increase. So we'll be going from last year's tax rate of 40683 to 0.44259. Also, I did a tax rate comparison chart so you could see our tax rate over the last few years. If you'll flip pages. As you can see, council, since 2021, we have actually over the last 4 years decreased taxes by almost 16 cents. So, although the proposed de minimis tax rate is an increase of 3 cents, it is important to recognize that overall tax rates have remained lower than before. To give you sort of a revenue comparison, on the next page, what you'll see is our property tax revenue. Sorry. Oh, okay. So what we did is I ran 3 different scenarios. Let me come up here so you can see where I'm pointing at. I don't know what's pointing. But on these 3 different scenarios, if we adopt the de minimis tax rate, which is a 3-cent increase, this is how much property tax revenue will bring in, the $6.3 million. And then if we threw in here an alternate rate, if we did something in between the last year's rate and the de minimis rate, if we did a 2-cent increase, we would bring in 6.135 million, which would decrease our revenue by 226,555. And of course, if we adopt last year's same rate, that'll decrease our general fund revenues by a little over 514,000.
Is that because the valuations went down?
No, so valuations actually increased a little bit. Yes, and this year's really is because of our, and you can jump in, Charles.
Valuations did go down just a little bit, but we've had increased new properties that have come into play. so they kind of offset. So in total, our valuation went up marginally, but by not even $100 million or $100,000. It went from 1.396 to 1.414 million, and a big portion of that was new business that came into town. So, I mean, valuations did decrease just a little bit due to people going to the tax to CAD and interest rates, but it did not offset the new buildings that came in.
So the CAD already, I went to the last one, the CAD already came up with an evaluation.
They've already done this, and we have to base that off of theirs, and that last page of the worksheet that you see is a long, it's a pain in the butt process that we have to go through the comptroller's office and calculate that. So each one of those aren't Heather, Deandra, and Charles come up with that. It's a prescribed formula that we have to use from the comptroller's office.
So the evaluations of our properties here in Pecos is handled by the taxing entity.
By the appraisal district.
Yeah, by the appraisal.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah, we have nothing to do with valuations.
right. So that because we added new businesses coming in, that affects the increase of the valuation.
It does, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, and as Charles said, the tax rate calculation to come up with these rates, it is a calculation that the Texas Comptroller's Office prescribes. And it's about 10 pages, and it asks you for last year's M&O, this year's M&O, last year's valuation, this year's valuation, our debt service. It takes all that into effect. This is the last page of that 10-page calculation. Yeah, so we didn't make these numbers up. They come from plugging in all our information.
Based on formulas, math formulas.
Yes, and of course, like Charles said, the valuation is set from the tax appraisal, sorry.
It's like since 21, we've gone down almost 16 cents, but then this year we're going up 3.5%. So overall, we're still down some.
Yes, overall,
Which is good.
and then the last few years, council, we've been able to stabilize the property tax rate. So
Our
just,
valuation, excuse me,
go ahead.
our valuation, it's in the billions now?
Yes, and I have it down here,
Yeah,
Charles.
2 years ago it did, yes, it did.
2 years ago,
Yeah, and part of that had to do, and it's one of the reasons why you see the big decrease in that, in the 1 year that you saw is strictly due to the valuations. That's when all the mineral rights were on there. And when they did that, valuation went up. When I first got here in 2020, our base was $372 million. And since then, it's crept up to 2 years ago over $1 billion, and this year still over about almost $1.5 billion. I think the county as a whole, and I'm just guessing right now because I've seen how they relate to us, is closer to $40 billion.
School's probably more than that.
School and county is already the same on that, and I think it's about $40 billion.
Because they get,
Oh, that's true. It's going to be more than that, right? Yes, sir.
And what we need to realize, and people need to realize, is everything in the economy has gone up from food and insurance costs to new vehicles, new material, whatever, everything's gone up.
It does, and our property taxes equate to about 32% of our total general fund budget, so it's significant, it has a significant impact.
And like Councilman Graham said, we're down 16 cents, and we're still actually looking, if people look at it positively, it's still 15 cents.
Yeah, that was really important to mention.
And besides that, if Pecos is growing, then our infrastructure is going to have to be updated. So we need extra money in order to do that too.
We do.
And in our budget
And
too.
Main Street, Lincoln Street, fix them.
Yes.
We need to go up a little bit on our taxes.
Correct. I was gonna say, there was an increase in our M&O in our budget this year too, which was, okay, if you'll move to the next page, just to give you an example of how much that's going to cost the property is, I put an example up here of a home value of $150,000. So of course, if your home value is $150,000 and it's not homestead, last year you would pay $610.24 on taxes. This year with the new proposed rate, you would pay $663.88, which is a little over $53 difference. And of course, if you have a homestead, and your home value is $150,000, the appraisal district does do the max 20% homestead exemption, and so you would be looking at a $42.90 difference on your property taxes. And then, of course, on our notice that we'll publish in the newspaper, we'll put a little calculation formula out there for the residents to figure out what they'll be looking at and paying in property taxes. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. And then I'll go back, but again, we were proposing adopting the de minimis rate of 0.44259. That is what we worked into the budget, which, again, it does exceed our no new revenue tax rate, and it does exceed the voter approval tax rate, but because we are a population of 30,000 or less, we're given a de minimis rate. So since it does exceed the other two rates, it doesn't call for an automatic election, but the voters may petition for an election. And that's the reason our timeline for adopting the tax rate in the budget is early. This moved up then.
So if it was petitioned and they said we couldn't do the de minimis, does it automatically go down to one of the other rates?
Yes, it will go to the voter approval tax rate, which is the 0.2.
Really low.
Yes. And if that is something we do, then we will have to
We'll have to make cuts.
major cuts. Yes. And again, as Charles said, our general fund revenue does rely on property tax rates, so it makes up about 32% of the budget.
Can this still petition if it's stated that make no new revenue tax rate?
It could be, yes, sir. It could be, man.
Still petition?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get off subject here really quick, but do you guys ever meet with the appraisal district to make sure they're running comps and we're not missing out on certain properties that are not even appraised properly? Because, when I was running a petition 6 months ago, I ran into a lot of buildings and compared to mine across the street were even valued, like they would value mine at $500,000 and then the one across the street, the same footage was $30,000. I know that sounds crazy, and that's not our problem here, but we're losing a lot of money as well from property. Do we ever meet with those entities, or do you guys ever sit down with that? Because I can promise you can run some comps on some buildings right now, and they're not even appraised correctly.
That's what their board does, Hector. I can tell you that I do have conversations with Clayton regularly, and especially as it relates to the valuation of the TERS and stuff. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting with him this afternoon to talk about that and how we're incorporating and how it was modified. But looking at comps, we do not do that, no, sir.
Right.
And that was a problem in a certain person. But then when the CAD got corrected, and since that, we found each other, that was a situation, when even on the tax rates. And then on the tax rates, there's always room for error.
And of course, I just want to go back and let you know that I did put the three scenarios up again at the de minimis rate. That is the number we worked into our budget, bringing in the 6.3 million. If we did adopt an alternate rate of 2-cent increase, that it would decrease our budget by $226,555 And if we did last year's rate, if we kept it the same, it would decrease our budget by a little over $500,000. And let me go back to our okay. And then our tax rate comparison, again, over the last 4 years, we have decreased our property taxes by almost 16%, 15.8. And then today, council will have to motion for the two things on the one item to approve the tax rate calculations, which is a formula from the Texas Comptroller's Office, and then also the proposed, what our proposed tax rate will be.
Motion that we approve 2025 property tax rate calculation and proposed tax rate.
We have to do a separate.
I do have to have a record vote, so however you want to,
Do we have to mention the amount?
yes, you will have to mention the amount.
The minimum rate?
It's all, it's all in the one deal. So we need to mention the amounts.
Yes, the minimum rate, that's what we're gonna go with.
I'll make the motion to approve the, redo my motion to approve the 25 property tax rate calculation, which includes the proposed tax rate, which is the de minimis rate of 44.44259.
I have a motion from Councilman Graham, a second from Councilman Arona to approve the 2025 tax rate calculation and proposed tax rate of the de minimis rate of .44259. All those in favor say aye.
No. Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Well, let the record show the motion carries.
That'll be it. And then we will have a public hearing on the tax rate sometime next week.
The 19th?
Yes, on the 19th. If we can do it on 19th at noon, that'll be our public hearing for the tax rate.
You have to do two. Just one.
Yes.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn. And it's 12:20.